Before we enter my non-CGI review of the CGI-filled Warcraft, I will brace you by admitting that never have I ever played Warcraft. Now, I do play video games, but personally I avoid the soul-sucking world games that cause arthritis and turn people into zombies. I do admire the commitment, but I have an even greater admiration for people who practice the art of communication. It allows you, for instance, to go out to the movies, buy a ticket, buy a popcorn, talk to the person next to you. Movies do this. They bring people together. At the movies, strangers are never truly strangers. Warcraft. Speaking as one of two schmucks in my theater who had not played the game, and likely never will, I very much enjoyed this movie. The story follows the protectors of Azeroth and an army of orc warriors. When the orc world begins to perish, they use a portal to move into the human world. Their plans to colonize are put on hold as Anduin Lothar, Medivh, and Lane Wrynn play defense to keep their world orc-free. But time is short, as the remaining orcs prepare to rid Azeroth of all humans. Both sides have a code of honor and family responsibilities, and when the shields are down and the desperation seeps in, one wrong move is the difference between living and perishing. Warcraft offers a fresh attempt at breaking the video game adaptation spell. The last attempt didn't go very well. Personally, I would actually argue that Need for Speed succeeded. But that property bears a much lighter expectation, and plus, let's be honest here, the Fast and the Furious owns the racing genre. The plan to make this movie was announced a decade ago. It was a classic case of fear, prompting the need for a wallet big enough to store courage. During development hell, Uwe Boll expressed interest in directing and got turned down flat. Sam Raimi was initially attached to direct. But in January 2013, the job landed in the hands of London-born Duncan Jones. And following a 4-month shoot and 20 months of post-production, I believe the man has delivered the best video game adaptation so far. For Jones, Warcraft marks his third feature, following Moon and Source Code. I saw Source Code, and it was damn good, but if you told me at that time that his next project would have been this film, I would have asked you what was keeping James Cameron and Peter Jackson oh so busy. One of the trickiest things about making a film like this is that you not only need to stay true to the basic elements of the game, but also simultaneously introduce newcomers, like myself, to everything, and also reward the gamers who have spent countless hours playing this game by using those basic elements in a satisfactory manner. For me, I was really just hoping to not feel like I was watching a cutscene. I mean, every scene is cut together, but for every fan who has ever played a game and then watched the film adaptation, you want to play the game and watch the film, not the other way around. Actually brings to mind a point I made in my Need for Speed review. Best case scenario, the movie inspires you to want to play the game. Well, in the case of Warcraft, I do not want to play the game, but I do want more movies. I think what Warcraft does really well is prove you can have a story play out in an epic fantasy world, but not have it be so big it outstays its welcome. It's a little obvious, but I think of The Hobbit comparatively. Big world, lots of weird names, a lot of CGI, and plenty of eye candy. But for some, that story did overstay its welcome. Surprisingly, by comparison, Warcraft is tame in scale. The sets are huge and gorgeous, but the story is tight and the battles do not wage on for an hour. Kinda makes me think that Michael Bay should give the Transformers keys to a certain Mr. Jones. Wallet's right here, bro. My ticket for this movie was just shy of $22. The friend I saw this with was not a big fan of that price, but given our options, I was morally against anything but IMAX. I made that mistake when I saw Spectre for the second and third time in Standard. Never again. The great news is that despite the utterly pointless 3D, Warcraft was a jaw-dropping IMAX experience. As soon as the Blizzard logo came on screen, the woman on my left had the biggest nerdgasm. She was so happy. What followed for me was an unforgettable journey, truly unforgettable. Usually, I always prefer real effects over CGI, but this film did it right, motivated by story and character, and rather than detract from the experience, the CGI creates the experience. And with aid from a visual effects team 700 strong, the production designer for Star Wars Episodes 2 and 3, and the director of photography for 300 Rise of an Empire, Warcraft is one hell of a sight. I'll tell you this, I've seen some good looking movies. The Wizard of Oz, Lawrence of Arabia, The Godfather, The Shining, Blade Runner, Batman, Dick Tracy, Chungking Express, Devdas, The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring, The Polar Express, V for Vendetta, The Fall, Zodiac, Avatar, Watchmen, Inception, The Tree of Life, The Loneliest Planet, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2, Hugo, Prometheus, The Master, Skyfall, The Hobbit, An Unexpected Journey, Her, Pacific Rim, Blue is the Warmest Color, The Great Beauty, Interstellar, Birdman, Furious 7, Mad Max, Fury Road, The Hateful Eight, Batman v Superman, Dawn of Justice. Warcraft is now on that list. Just as good news is the cast across the console is genuine. From Travis Finnell, to Ben Schnetzer, to Dominic Cooper, to Paul Patton, I believed because they believed. And especially in that regard, Ben Foster blew me away. He plays the Guardian of Azeroth. Foster has had a pretty healthy career so far, and this film, in my eyes, proved he was born to play fantasy roles. The Guardian is responsible for conjuring up a lot of magical powers, and as a viewer, if the actor can't pull off a convincing conjure, my belief in the world is gone. It collapses. So, bravo to Ben Foster because that conjuring was dope. Also very dope is the dialogue. Even for a non-Warcraft gamer, the language was not dense and only Warcraft user-friendly. Granted, I can't recall any of the character names, but give me time and 9 sequels and I'll get there. My favorite part of this CGI mammoth is a scene with actually very little CGI. Without going into great detail, a character rescues another character, and in doing so, they turn this guard into an animal. And the way it plays out, the character being rescued thinks they turn the guard into an animal. It's very cute. And it's a moment that's very clearly meant to be a laugh moment for the audience. And thanks to a darn good editing job, it got a huge laugh. So, good editing. My one note for improvement is for context, and given how I know jack about Warcraft besides what Wikipedia told me, I am going to use Harry Potter to help me explain this. In Harry Potter, we are introduced to the wizarding world via the title character, and by going on the journey with Harry, we gained a physical and emotional context for what it means to be a wizard and what Hogwarts has to offer. The 7 films that followed expanded on those ideas, and the fans that kept up were rewarded with dramatic spellcasting. Nobody was casting spells in real life, but the storytellers established the physical and verbal language early on, so that it wasn't a requirement later on. We came, as an audience, to understand the language subconsciously. When a character draws their wand and takes position, we know what's going to happen. We can also predict, based on the context, what spell will be cast.
Rictus Emperor!
Whether or not it works is irrelevant. What matters is, we know what the spell does. Let's now click and drag all of that into Warcraft. The big difference here is that this movie spends no time introducing the magic. So unless you are an educated Warcraft player, you must learn on the go. And that's not terrible, but it's not ideal. On the one hand, I do appreciate the storytellers not directly feeding us the information, but for the first movie, only catering to die-hard Warcraft fans leaves people like me who are very intrigued, but also very ignorant, in a weird place. I'm not mad about it though, and I actually have been recommending this movie to friends of mine who I think will sincerely enjoy it. And then, of course, the critics have been doing their part to draw people away from this movie, unfortunately. But then again, they are paid to hate these movies. My advice is push past the pessimism. Ignore it completely. Allow yourself to enjoy Warcraft. I did, and I enjoyed the hell out of it. I think it's quite fascinating. I give it 4 out of 5 stars. Thank you very much for your time. Now go be productive and check out a channel called Dominating Spud. Link is below. It's pretty awesome.